Hello, I am Gaston, a cloud support engineer here at the AWS office in Sydney. Today I am going to show you how to troubleshoot the issue where Amazon Simple Storage Service objects aren't replicated to the destination bucket. Let's get started. Minimum Amazon S3 permissions. First, let's confirm that the AWS Identity and Access Management role that we use in the replication rule has the correct permissions. The IAM policy that I am showing on the screen is attached to the IAM role that's used for replication. The policy shows the minimum permissions that are required for replication. Note, you must replace source bucket and destination bucket ARN with the ARN that you are using. The IAM role must have a trust policy that allows the S3 service to assume the role to replicate objects as the following example. If the destination bucket is in another account, then the destination bucket policy must grant the following permissions. Note: replace the principal ARN with the ARN of the replication role from the source account. Additional Amazon S3 permissions. If the replication rule is set to change objects ownership to the destination bucket owner when you are replicating between different accounts, as shown here on the screen, then the IAM role must have the S3 object owner override to bucket owner permissions. This permission must be placed on the S3 object resource. The destination account must also grant the S3 object owner override to bucket owner permissions through the bucket policy. Note: if the destination bucket's object ownership settings include bucket owner enforced, then you don't need to change object ownership to the destination bucket owner in the replication rule. This change occurs by default. If the replication rule has delete marked replication activated, then the IAM role must have the S3 replicate delete permissions. If the destination bucket is in another account, then the destination bucket owner must also grant these permissions through the bucket policy. For example, after you add the additional S3 permissions to the IAM role, the same permissions must be granted through the bucket policy on the destination bucket. AWS KMS permissions. If a bucket's source objects are encrypted with an AWS Key Management Service key, then the replication rule must be configured to include AWS KMS encrypt objects. To include objects encrypted with AWS KMS, follow these steps. Open the Amazon S3 console. Choose the S3 bucket that contains the source objects. On the Management tab, select a replication rule. Choose Actions, Edit. Under Encryption, choose Replicate Objects encrypted with AWS KMS. Under AWS KMS key for encrypting destination objects, select a KMS key. The default option is to use the KMS key, AWS/S3. Important: if the destination bucket is in a different AWS account, then specify a customer managed key that's owned by the destination account. Don't use the default AWS S3 key. This encrypts the objects with the AWS managed key that's owned by the source account, and that means that the objects can't be shared with another account. As a result, the destination account can't access the objects in the destination bucket. AWS KMS additional permissions for cross-account scenarios. To use a KMS key that belongs to the destination account to encrypt the destination objects, the destination account must grant the replication role in the KMS key policy. Additionally, the source account must add the following minimum permissions to the replication roles IAM policy. Explicit deny and conditional allow statements. If your objects still aren't replicating after you validate the permissions, then check for any explicit deny statements. Deny statements in the destination bucket policy or AWS KMS key policies that restrict access to the following might cause replication to fail: specific CDR ranges, VPC endpoints, S3 access points, deny statements or permissions boundaries that are attached to the IAM role might cause replication to fail. Deny statements in AWS organizations' service control policies (SCPs) that are attached to either the source or destination account might cause replication to fail. Amazon S3 bucket keys and replication considerations. There are 4 scenarios that involve bucket key configurations on the source and destination buckets. 1. No bucket key on the source and destination. 2. Bucket key on the source and destination. 3. Bucket key on the source but not on destination. And 4. No bucket key on source and bucket key on destination. Scenario 1. No bucket key on the source and destination. For this scenario, use this IAM role policy for replication. Scenario 2. Bucket key on source and destination. For this scenario, the IAM role policy is similar, but it used the bucket ARN in the encryption context instead of the object ARN, as the following content shows. In the seed S for source, in the seed D for destination. Scenario 3. Bucket key on source and not on destination. For this scenario, the changes are similar to the second use case, but replace the object ARN with bucket ARN in both seed S and seed D. Scenario 4. No bucket key on source and bucket key on destination. In this scenario, where the bucket key is active on the destination but not on the source, the IAM policy remains the same as that of the first use case. We don't have to make any changes in the policy. Instead, we'll use the object ARN on the encryption context. Object ACLs and block public access. Check whether the source and destination buckets are using access control list ACLs in the objects included. If the object includes an ACL that allows public access but the destination bucket is using block public access, then replication fails. Source object ownership. If the objects in the source bucket were uploaded by another AWS account, then the source account might not have permissions to access those objects. Check the source bucket to see if ACLs are deactivated. If the source bucket has ACLs deactivated, then the source account is the owner of all the objects in the bucket. If the source bucket doesn't have ACLs deactivated, then check to see if objects ownership is set to objects owner preferred or bucket owner preferred. If the bucket is set to bucket owner preferred, then the source bucket objects must have the bucket owner full control ACL for the bucket owner to become the object owner. Note that the source account can take ownership of all objects in their bucket by deactivating ACLs. Most use cases don't require using ACLs to manage access. It is a best practice to use IAM and bucket policies to manage access to S3 resources. To see these settings from the S3 console, select your source bucket, choose the Permissions tab, scroll down to the Object Ownership section to verify if your ACL settings are activated or deactivated. Be sure that you evaluate the current usage of ACLs on your bucket and objects. Your current bucket and IAM policies must grant sufficient permissions so that you can deactivate ACLs without affecting Amazon S3 access. Replication rule filter. Be sure that you specify the replication rule filter correctly. If you specify a rule filter with a combination of a key prefix and object tags, then S3 performs a logical AND operation to combine these filters. In other words, the rule applies to a subset of objects with a specific key prefix and specific tags. And now you know how to troubleshoot the issue where S3 objects aren't replicated to the destination bucket. Thanks for watching and happy cloud computing from all of us here at AWS.